The emergency council meeting took place on the battlecruiser Subjugator, the second largest ship in the Krell fleet. Admiral Vexar stood in the center of a circular room, surrounded by holographic projections of the Empire's high command. Their faces looked down at him with expressions ranging from anger to confusion. "Explain yourself, Admiral," High Commander Draxus demanded. His voice echoed through the chamber.
"How did a single pre-contact world destroy our flagship?"
Vexar kept his scales a neutral gray, showing no emotion. "They used kinetic weapons, Commander. Solid metal projectiles accelerated to extreme velocities. Our shields were not designed to stop such attacks." Science Director Morath leaned forward in his projection. He was older than the others, his scales faded with age. "That is impossible. Every species abandons kinetic weapons early in their development. They are inefficient and easy to defend against." "Not at those speeds," Vexar replied, "and not with those materials. Our scientists are studying the fragments now. The density and composition are remarkable. The humans have created something that should not work, but does." Strategic Commander Helax brought up a new display. Numbers and diagrams filled the air between them. "We have analyzed the attack. Each projectile carried the kinetic energy equivalent of a tactical nuclear weapon. No propellant, no warhead, just mass and velocity. How is that possible?" Draxus asked. "The energy required to accelerate such mass would be enormous." On Earth's moon, Commander Tyler Scott walked through the Phoenix's cargo bay. The long metal rods gleamed under bright lights. Each one weighed several tons, yet they had been fired with precision and incredible speed. Engineer Lisa Hayes stood next to him, checking readings on a portable computer. She was a small woman with blonde hair and sharp eyes. She had designed most of the Phoenix's weapon systems. "The Krell are requesting another meeting," Lisa said. "They want to understand how we did it." Tyler smiled. "Let them wonder. The more confused they are, the safer we are." "Jake Morrison wants to negotiate," Lisa continued. "He thinks we can make peace from a position of strength." "Maybe," Tyler said. "But we need to be ready in case they decide to attack again. How many more rounds do we have ready to fire?" "Enough to handle their entire fleet twice over. But each shot costs us enormous amounts of power. We can fire maybe 10 rounds before we need to recharge. That takes 6 hours." Tyler nodded. It was important information. If the Krell knew about the recharge time, they might attack in waves. But they did not know, and fear of the unknown was a powerful weapon. Back on the Subjugator, Krell scientists worked in their laboratories. They had pieces of the tungsten rods recovered from the wreckage of the Dominator. Under microscopes and scanners, they studied every molecule. "This material is incredible," one scientist reported to Morath. "The density is perfect for kinetic weapons. It does not shatter on impact. It pierces through armor like it is not there. But how do they accelerate it?" Morath asked. "Our calculations show they would need a power source larger than their moon. We detected massive magnetic fields at the moment of launch," another scientist said. "They are using electromagnetic acceleration, like a railgun but far more powerful than anything we have seen." Morath studied the data. Railguns were ancient technology, abandoned long ago because they were too power-hungry and difficult to aim. But somehow the humans had made them work. They had solved problems that the Krell had given up on thousands of years ago. Captain Jake Morrison met the Krell delegation at a neutral space station near the edge of Earth's solar system. The station had been built quickly, a simple structure made from modified cargo containers. But it was neutral ground, and that mattered. Admiral Vexar arrived with Science Director Morath and a security team. They walked carefully in the lower gravity, their movements cautious. Jake waited with Kate Sullivan and 3 diplomats. When the 2 groups met in the station's main room, there was a long moment of silence. "Your attack was unprovoked," Vexar said finally. "We came in peace." Jake raised an eyebrow. "You aimed weapons at our planet and demanded surrender. That is not peace." "Standard procedure for new contact," Vexar replied. "We demonstrate strength, you acknowledge it, and then we negotiate terms of integration into the Empire." "We do not accept your procedure," Jake said calmly. "We do not surrender to invaders." Morath stepped forward. "Your weapons are fascinating. They violate our understanding of practical military technology. We wish to understand how they work." "I am sure you do," Kate said. "But that information is not part of this negotiation." "Then what do you want?" Vexar asked. "Simple," Jake replied. "Leave our solar system. Do not return with hostile intent. Treat Earth as a sovereign world. not a target for conquest. Draxus's holographic projection appeared in the room, making everyone jump. Unacceptable. The Krell Empire does not retreat. We do not negotiate with primitives. Then you will lose more ships, Jake said. His voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. Your shields cannot stop our weapons. Your armor cannot resist them. Every ship you send, we can destroy. The question is, how many ships are you willing to lose? The hologram flickered with anger. But before Draxus could respond, Morath spoke. High Commander, perhaps we should consider their position. They have demonstrated capability we did not anticipate. Further conflict may be costly. Costly? Draxus's voice rose. We have 10,000 ships. They have one small world. One small world that has already destroyed your flagship, Kate pointed out. And we are just getting started. The meeting ended without agreement. The Krell delegation returned to their ships. The humans returned to Earth. Both sides prepared for what might come next. In a secure facility deep beneath Earth's Arctic ice, Lieutenant Kate Sullivan oversaw a new project. The room was cold, kept at near freezing temperatures by massive cooling systems. In the center stood a device that looked like a metal sphere surrounded by magnetic rings. Status on Project Thunderclap? Kate asked. Lead engineer Danny Foster looked up from his control panel. He was a young man with messy brown hair and excited eyes. He loved building things that had never been built before. We are ready for the first test, Danny said. The containment field is holding steady. All systems are green. Kate had been thinking about this project for months. The Krell used energy shields for defense. But what if those same shields could be used as weapons? What if you could compress energy to incredible densities and then release it in a controlled burst? Initiate the test, she ordered. The magnetic rings began to spin. Energy flowed through them, creating a field of force inside the sphere. A small amount of plasma was injected into the field. The temperature inside the sphere rose to millions of degrees hotter than the surface of a star. But the containment field held. The energy could not escape. It compressed, becoming denser and denser. Then, with a command from Danny's console, the field released. A beam of pure energy shot across the test chamber and struck a target drone. The drone simply vanished. It did not explode. It did not break apart. It ceased to exist, vaporized in an instant. Success, Danny breathed. That is a weapon. That is deterrence, Kate corrected. And the Krell need to know we have it. News of the test reached Jake within an hour. He immediately opened a communication channel to Admiral Vexar. We need to talk, Jake said when the Krell commander appeared on screen. More threats? Vexar asked. His scales had turned a tired blue. More truth, Jake replied. Your empire has conquered 700 worlds because you have superior technology. You have fought species that think like you do, that develop weapons and defenses along the same paths, but we do not think like you. What do you mean? Vexar asked. I mean that every weapon you have we can counter. Every defense you raise we can break through. Not because we are smarter, but because we approach problems differently. Jake pulled up a display showing the thunderclap test. The Krell Admiral watched the recording, his scales shifting through several colors. You have weaponized containment fields, Vexar said quietly. That should not be possible. You use them for defense. We use them for offense. That is the difference between our species. You perfect what you have. We imagine what could be. Vexar was silent for a long moment. What do you want from us? Peace, Jake said simply. Equal treatment. Recognition as a sovereign world. We do not want to be part of your empire, but we do not want to be your enemy either. The High Command will never accept this, Vexar replied. They see compromise as weakness. Then help us change their minds, Jake said. You have seen what we can do. You know that war with us will be costly. Help us find another way. After the communication ended, Vexar sat alone in his quarters. He thought about the human captain's words. The Krell Empire had been built on conquest, on the idea that strength meant domination. But what if there was another kind of strength? The strength to admit when someone was different, when the old ways did not work? His scales slowly turned purple with deep thought. These humans were forcing him to question everything he had believed about power and empire. And he was not sure he liked where those questions were leading. But he knew one thing for certain. The galaxy was about to change, and the Krell Empire would need to change with it or be left behind. 3 months had passed since the first confrontation. The Krell fleet still orbited Earth's solar system, but they kept their distance now. No weapons were aimed at the planet. No threats were made. Instead, there were meetings and discussions, slow negotiations between two very different civilizations. Today's meeting was different. The Krell Empire had sent their most brilliant scientific mind, a researcher named Qualix. He arrived at the human orbital station with just 2 assistants, no soldiers. It was a gesture of trust. Captain Jake Morrison waited in the station's main meeting room with Dr. Helen Martinez, Earth's lead scientist. Helen was a woman in her 40s with dark hair turning gray at the temples. She had 3 degrees in physics and had spent her entire career studying how things moved through space. "Welcome, researcher Qualix," Jake said as the alien entered the room. Qualix was different from the other Krell they had met. His scales were lighter, almost silver, and his eyes were larger. He moved with the careful grace of someone who spent more time in laboratories than on battlefields. "Captain Morrison, Dr. Martinez," Qualix said through his translator, "thank you for agreeing to this meeting. I come not to threaten, but to learn." "What do you want to know?" Helen asked. Qualix settled into a chair designed for Krell physiology. "Everything. Your railgun technology defies our understanding. We have modeled it 1,000 times. The power requirements alone should need a fusion reactor the size of a small moon, yet your weapon fits inside a ship barely larger than a shuttle." Helen glanced at Jake, who nodded. They had discussed this. Sharing some information might help build trust, and besides, the Krell would eventually figure it out on their own. "You are right about the power requirements," Helen began. "A conventional railgun of that size would be impossible. But we do not use a conventional approach." She pulled up a holographic display showing the Phoenix's weapon system. The Krell scientist leaned forward, his eyes widening as he studied the design. "We use superconducting magnetic coils cooled to near absolute zero," Helen explained. "This eliminates electrical resistance. The power flows through them without loss. Then we use a capacitor network that can store enormous amounts of energy and discharge it in microsecond bursts." "But the heat," Qualix interrupted. "The discharge would generate massive amounts of heat. It would destroy the superconductors." "It would," Helen agreed. "If we did not have a heat management system, we use liquid helium as a coolant. The moment we fire, the heat is channeled into the helium reservoir. The helium flash vaporizes, absorbing the thermal energy. This creates a cooling burst that protects the coils." Qualix sat back, his scales flickering through colors that his translator could not explain. "Elegant, brutal, and completely outside our technological thinking. We have spent thousands of years making energy weapons more efficient. You have made kinetic weapons possible again by solving the problems we gave up on." "That is the human way," Jake said. "We do not accept that something is impossible. We just assume we have not found the right solution yet." Back on the subjugator, Admiral Vexar received Qualix's report. He read it 3 times, trying to understand the implications. "They have weaponized thermodynamics," Vexar said to his second-in-command, Commander Xyloth. "More than that," Xyloth replied. "They have created a system that combines multiple technologies in ways we never considered. Our scientists pursue efficiency and elegance. Humans pursue effectiveness no matter how complex the solution." Strategic Commander Helax appeared as a hologram. "We have new intelligence. Human ships have been detected leaving their solar system. 5 vessels, all traveling in different directions." "Where are they going?" Vexar asked. "We do not know. They are using some kind of new propulsion system. Our sensors cannot track them accurately." On the Pathfinder, humanity's first true interstellar vessel, Commander Tyler Scott stood on the bridge watching the stars streak past. The ship was small compared to Krell vessels, but it was fast. Incredibly fast. "Jump drive working perfectly," pilot Jenny Walsh reported. She was a young woman with short black hair and the steady hands of a natural flyer. "We should reach the target system in 3 minutes." Tyler nodded. The jump drive was humanity's newest secret. While the Krell used wormhole technology, carefully mapped routes through space that took weeks to traverse, humans had asked a simple question. Why use roads when you can make your own? The jump drive tore a hole in space-time itself. It was dangerous, unstable, and had a 5% failure rate. But it could take a ship anywhere within 100 light-years in minutes. "Prepare to exit jump space," Jenny said. Her fingers moved across the controls with practiced ease. The stars suddenly snapped back into normal position. The Pathfinder had crossed 30 light-years in less than 4 minutes. Around them, an asteroid belt stretched as far as the sensors could detect, rich with minerals uninhabited and unclaimed by any galactic power. Perfect navigation, Tyler said. We are exactly where we should be. Begin surveying operations and send a message back to Earth. Tell them the Pathfinder has claimed humanity's first extrasolar territory. The message took hours to reach Earth through conventional communication. But when it did, it caused immediate reactions across both human and Krell command centers. In the Krell High Command Chamber, High Commander Draxus slammed his hand against the control panel. They cannot do this. That system is in our expansion zone. It is unclaimed space, Science Director Morath pointed out calmly. By galactic law, they have every right to colonize it. Then we change the law, Strategic Commander Helak suggested. To what? Admiral Vexar asked. He had joined the meeting via hologram from the subjugator. The law was written by the Empire's founders to prevent territorial disputes. If we change it now, every species in the Empire will see it as weakness. They will question our authority. The debate continued for hours. Meanwhile, more reports came in. Human ships had reached 4 other systems. All were unclaimed. All were being surveyed for colonization. On Earth, Captain Jake Morrison met with his senior staff. Kate Sullivan, Tyler Scott via communication link, Helen Martinez, and a dozen other key personnel gathered in the command center. The Krell are panicking, Kate reported. Their communication traffic has increased by 300%. They are trying to figure out how our jump drive works. Let them try, Helen said. The math alone will take them years to understand. We approach the problem from quantum mechanics, not relativity. They will be looking in the wrong direction. Jake studied a star map showing human expansion. We are moving fast. Maybe too fast. If we push too hard, the Krell might decide that war is their only option. Or they might decide that peace is cheaper. Tyler's voice came through the speakers. Every day we delay, we grow stronger. Every new system we claim, every new technology we develop. The Krell know this. Time is on our side. In a secret laboratory on Mars, engineer Danny Foster worked on humanity's next surprise. This one was even more ambitious than the railguns or the jump drive. Are you sure this will work? His assistant, a young scientist named Greg Palmer, asked nervously. No, Danny admitted, but that has never stopped us before. On the table in front of them lay what looked like a simple metal box. Inside, forces that should not exist were being manipulated in ways that violated several laws of physics. Or at least violated the laws as the Krell understood them. If we are right, this will change warfare forever, Danny said. Energy shields work by creating a barrier of force. But what if we could invert that force, turn it back on itself? You are talking about a shield breaker, Greg said. I'm talking about something better. A field that does not just break shields, but makes them impossible to use. Every ship in the galaxy relies on energy barriers for defense. Imagine rendering all of them useless. The implications were staggering. The Krell Empire's entire military strategy was built around shield technology. If humans could neutralize that advantage, the balance of power would shift dramatically. Back on the subjugator, Admiral Vexar sat alone in his quarters, thinking. Reports covered his desk. Analysis of human technology, projections of future conflicts, intelligence about human expansion. Every report said the same thing. Humanity was advancing faster than any species in recorded history. They were not following the normal patterns of development. They were leaping ahead, finding solutions that no one else had considered. And the worst part was the Krell could not stop them without massive losses. Every wargame simulation ended the same way. The Krell would win eventually, but at a cost of 30 to 40% of their fleet. 10,000 ships would become 6,000. And their enemies throughout the galaxy would see that weakness. There had to be another way. Counselor Zynar, the eldest member of the Krell High Command, contacted Vexar privately. The old counselor's scales were faded almost to white with age, but his eyes were still sharp. Admiral, I have been reading your reports with interest, Zynar said. You understand these humans better than anyone else in the Empire. I am beginning to, Vexar replied carefully. They think differently than we do. That makes them unpredictable. And dangerous, Zynar added, but also valuable. I have watched this empire grow for 3 centuries. I have seen us conquer hundreds of worlds. The massive alien ship hung in the darkness above Earth like a metal moon. Its surface was smooth and black, reflecting no light. Inside the ship, Commander Xyloth watched the blue planet through his viewing screen. His long fingers tapped against the control panel as he studied the world below. Another easy victory, he said to himself. His voice was deep and rough, translated by machines into sounds that other species could understand. Admiral Vexar stood behind him, his tall body covered in dark scales that shifted color with his mood. Right now they were a confident red. He had conquered 700 worlds for the Krell Empire. This small blue planet would be number 701. Send them our standard message, Vexar ordered. Tell them to surrender or face destruction. Far below on Earth, Captain Jake Morrison stood in a large room filled with computers and screens. He was a tall man with short brown hair and tired eyes. He had not slept well in 3 days, not since the alien ship first appeared in the sky. Next to him stood Lieutenant Kate Sullivan. She was younger than Jake, with red hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. Her fingers moved quickly across her keyboard as she read the incoming data. "They're charging their weapons," Kate said. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. "We have maybe 5 minutes." Jake nodded slowly. He pressed a button on his console. "Get me Commander Tyler Scott. Tell him it's time." "Are you sure about this?" Kate asked. "We only get one shot." "I'm sure," Jake replied. "If we're wrong, we're dead anyway. If we're right, we just changed everything." 20,000 miles above Earth, a small ship floated in the darkness. It looked like a simple cargo vessel, the kind used to move supplies between Earth and the Moon. But inside, Commander Tyler Scott sat in a pilot's chair, his hands resting on unusual controls. Tyler was a quiet man with dark skin and careful eyes. He had been a test pilot before joining the Human Defense Initiative. Now he commanded the Phoenix, a ship that looked ordinary on the outside but held a secret that could change the war. "This is Morrison," Jake's voice came through Tyler's headset. "You are approved for launch." "Good luck," Tyler took a deep breath. "Roger that." Opening bay doors now. The sides of the cargo ship split open. Inside, 36 long metal rods waited in their launch tubes. They were not missiles. They were not bombs. They were just metal. Tungsten rods, each one as long as a telephone pole and as heavy as a small car. "Firing sequence initiated," Tyler said. His fingers danced across the controls. 3, 2, 1, launch. Magnetic coils inside the Phoenix roared to life. Massive amounts of electricity flowed through them in milliseconds. The tungsten rods shot forward, accelerated by magnetic force to incredible speeds. In seconds, they were traveling faster than anything the Krell had ever seen from such a primitive species. Back on the Dominator, Admiral Vexar watched the projectiles approach. His scales flickered with confusion. "What are those?" "Simple kinetic weapons," his science officer reported. "Just metal rods. No explosives, no guidance systems. Very primitive." Vexar clicked his mandibles together, a Krell gesture of amusement. "Raise shields. Let them see how useless their weapons are." The energy shields around the Dominator glowed to life. They were beautiful, shimmering curtains of force that could stop any energy weapon in the galaxy. Lasers, plasma beams, particle cannons, all of them would splash harmlessly against those shields. The tungsten rods struck the shields and passed through them like they were not even there. Because the shields were designed to stop energy, not matter. No species in the galaxy used solid projectiles anymore. They were too slow, too heavy, too primitive. Every civilization had moved beyond them thousands of years ago. But humanity had not, and that made all the difference. The rods punched through the Dominator's hull with terrible force. They did not explode. They did not need to. The kinetic energy alone was enough. Moving at such incredible speed, each rod hit with the force of a small nuclear weapon. Holes appeared in the ship's side. Air rushed out into space. Lights flickered and died. Crew members were thrown from their feet as the ship shuddered under the impacts. "Damage report," Vexar shouted, his scales now flashing orange with alarm. "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 15. An officer reported. "We've lost main power. Secondary systems failing. Casualties in the hundreds." Vexar stared at the screen in disbelief. "Impossible. They're primitives. They barely have space travel." "Sir, we need to evacuate the damaged sections," Commander Xyloth said. "If we don't seal those breaches, we'll lose half the ship." On Earth, Jake Morrison watched the data coming from their satellites. The alien flagship was listing to one side, leaking atmosphere. Emergency lights blinked across its dark surface. "It worked," Kate whispered. "It actually worked." Jake allowed himself a small smile. For months, Earth scientists had studied what little they knew about alien technology. They had learned that every species in the galaxy used energy weapons and energy shields. It made sense. Energy was clean, efficient, and easy to control. But energy shields had a weakness. They were not designed to stop solid objects moving at high speed. Why would they be? No one used such weapons anymore except humans. Humans who had looked at the problem and decided to go backward instead of forward, to use the oldest weapon in existence, throwing rocks, but to throw them faster than anyone thought possible. Send a message to the alien fleet, Jake ordered. Tell them we would like to discuss the terms of their withdrawal from our space. The other Krell ships in orbit pulled back, their own shields now raised. But they were watching the Dominator carefully, seeing what human weapons could do. In the command center of the damaged flagship, Admiral Vexar made a decision. He had conquered 700 worlds through strength and fear, but he had also survived by knowing when to retreat. Open a channel to the humans, he ordered. Tell them we will talk. Commander Xyloth looked at him in surprise. Admiral, the High Command will see this as weakness. The High Command is not here, Vexar replied. His scales had turned a cautious blue. They did not see what I just saw. These humans are different. They think differently, and that makes them dangerous. Kate pulled up a communication screen. The face of Admiral Vexar appeared, his alien features strange but his expression clear. He was shocked and uncertain. This is Admiral Vexar of the Krell Empire, the translator voice said. We did not expect such resistance. Perhaps we should discuss this situation. Jake leaned toward the camera. That sounds wise, Admiral. We have 35 more rounds loaded and ready to fire. We can talk or we can continue this demonstration. Your choice. There was a long pause. Finally, Vexar spoke again. We will talk. As the communication ended, Kate looked at Jake. Do we really have 35 more rounds? We have 108, Jake replied. But I didn't want to sound too eager. Around the world, people watched the news in amazement. The alien invasion had lasted less than an hour. The mighty Krell Empire, conquerors of hundreds of worlds, had been stopped by simple tungsten rods fired from a magnetic railgun. In his quarters on the Dominator, Admiral Vexar sat alone, thinking. He had studied human transmissions before the attack. He had thought he understood them. A young species barely capable of reaching their own moon. Easy prey, but he had been wrong. The humans had not tried to match Krell technology. They had not built energy weapons or faster ships. Instead, they had looked at the problem from a completely different angle. They had weaponized physics itself. Mass times velocity equals force, a simple equation that every child learned. But the humans had taken it to an extreme that no one else had considered in thousands of years. Vexar's scales slowly turned purple, the Krell color for deep thought. These humans were not just defending their world. They were showing the galaxy something it had forgotten. That sometimes the old ways, the simple ways, could be more effective than all the advanced technology in the universe. He reached for his communication device. He needed to report to the High Command. But what would he tell them? That he had been defeated by primitives throwing rocks? They would never believe it, but it was true. And it changed everything. The war room of the Krell High Command was filled with tension. Holographic displays showed tactical maps, resource allocations, and probability calculations. Every screen told the same story. A war with humanity would be devastating. High Commander Draxus stood at the center of the room, his scales flashing angry red. Around him, the other members of the High Command appeared as life-size projections. They had been debating for 6 hours. This is madness, Draxus insisted, his voice echoing off the metal walls. We are discussing surrender to a species that has existed in space for barely 50 years. A single planet cannot threaten an empire spanning 1,000 worlds. They already have. Science Director Morath replied calmly. He had seen the data. He understood what it meant. Our tactical analysis is clear. If we attack Earth with our full fleet, we will win. But the cost will be enormous. 40% casualties. That means we lose 4,000 ships. Strategic Commander Helax brought up a new display. Red dots appeared across the star map, each one representing a battle group. It gets worse. We have detected more human ships leaving their solar system. They are heading toward unclaimed systems we plan to colonize. How many ships? Draxus asked. 20 so far. Small vessels, but fast. They are using that jump drive technology. We cannot intercept them. Admiral Vexar appeared in the chamber, his hologram transmitted from the subjugator. They are expanding faster than we can respond. Every day they claim new territory, build new bases. In 6 months they will control dozens of systems. Counselor Zynar, the oldest member of the council, finally spoke. His voice was quiet but carried weight. I have served this empire for 300 years. I have watched us conquer and integrate hundreds of species. But I have never seen anything like humanity. They are not stronger than us. They are not smarter. But they are unpredictable, and that makes them more dangerous than any enemy we have faced. What are you proposing? Draxus asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. A treaty, Zynar said. We offer them full membership in the Galactic Empire. Not as subjects, as partners. Equal voting rights, trade access, mutual defense. The room erupted in protest. Several counselors started speaking at once, but Zynar raised a claw for silence. Listen to me. If we fight humanity, we will win. But the cost will weaken us. Our enemies will see that weakness. The Vaxxan Confederation has been waiting for an opportunity to challenge us. The Zephyr Alliance watches our borders with hungry eyes. If we lose 4,000 ships fighting humans, we might lose the Empire to our real enemies. But to give them equal status, Strategic Commander Halax objected. It sets a dangerous precedent. Every species will demand the same treatment. Let them, Zynar replied. But they will not get it, because they do not have what humanity has. They do not have weapons that can pierce our shields. They do not have ships that can travel between stars in minutes. They do not have the ability to innovate faster than we can respond. Morath nodded slowly. The counselor makes a valid point. From a purely strategic perspective, an alliance with humanity strengthens us. We gain access to their technology. They gain access to our knowledge and resources. Both sides benefit. On Earth, Captain Jake Morrison received an unexpected message. It came directly from Counselor Zynar, bypassing the usual diplomatic channels. Captain Morrison, I am told you are a reasonable man. Zynar's translated voice said, I would like to discuss a proposal that may interest you. Jake sat in his office, Kate Sullivan standing behind him. They listened to Zynar's offer carefully. Full membership in the Galactic Empire, equal rights, access to technologies that could advance human civilization by centuries. What is the catch? Kate asked when the message ended. There is always a catch, Jake replied. He pressed a button to replay part of the message. Zynar's words were careful, diplomatic, but the meaning was clear. The Krell wanted access to human technology. They want our railguns, our jump drives, everything we have developed, Kate said. Not everything. The message specifically says defensive technologies and propulsion systems. They are not asking for our weapons. They want the science behind them. Jake stood and walked to the window. Outside, the orbital station's observation deck showed Earth floating peacefully below. 6 months ago, they had been preparing for invasion. Now they were negotiating treaties. Call a meeting, Jake ordered. Senior staff only. We need to decide if we can trust them. The meeting took place in a secure conference room. Tyler Scott joined via video link from the Pathfinder. Helen Martinez brought detailed analysis of what the Krell were offering. Danny Foster attended, representing Earth's research and development teams. They are offering us medical technology that could extend human lifespan by decades. Helen began. Anti-gravity systems that would revolutionize transportation. Energy production methods that make our fusion reactors look primitive. And complete star charts covering a quarter of the galaxy. In exchange for our propulsion technology and manufacturing techniques, Tyler added. They want to know how we make things work that should not work. Can we trust them? Kate asked. Everyone looked at Jake. He had spent more time dealing with the Krell than anyone else. He had learned to read their body language, understand their scales' color changes. I think we can trust some of them, Jake said carefully. Counselor Zynar seems genuine. Admiral Vexar has shown himself to be honorable. But the High Command is divided. Some want peace. Others see us as a threat that must be eliminated. So what do we do? Danny asked. Jake was quiet for a long moment. We negotiate, but we do it carefully. We share some technology, but not everything. We keep our edge, our advantages, and we build relationships with the Krell who want peace. That is a dangerous game, Tyler warned. If they think we are holding back, they might see it as a sign of bad faith. If we give them everything, we lose our only advantage, Kate countered. Right now, they respect us because they fear us. If we cannot defend ourselves, we become just another member species. They will absorb us eventually. Helen cleared her throat. There might be a middle ground. We share the basic principles of our technology, but not the complete designs. Give them enough to understand what we have done, but not enough to duplicate it easily. That way they benefit from the knowledge, but we maintain our edge. Jake nodded slowly. That could work. It shows good faith without making us vulnerable. Tyler, what is the status of our expansion? We have claimed 12 systems so far. Another 8 expeditions are in progress. Each system gives us resources and territory. The more we have, the stronger our negotiating position. Keep expanding, Jake ordered. But avoid any systems the Krell have marked for colonization. We do not want to give them a reason to attack. Helen, prepare a technology package. Basic principles of our railgun and jump drive, but nothing that would let them build their own immediately. What about our new projects? Danny asked. The shield breaker? The plasma compression weapon? Those stay secret, Jake said firmly. Those are our insurance policy. If the treaty fails, we need to have surprises in reserve. Back on the subjugator, Admiral Vexar met with a small group of Krell officers. These were people he trusted, veterans who understood that survival sometimes required compromise. The High Command is moving toward a treaty, Vexar told them, but there is resistance. Some members believe humanity must be conquered or destroyed. General Kraxus is organizing a faction within the military to oppose any alliance. Commander Xyloth leaned forward. Kraxus is dangerous. He sees any compromise as weakness. If he gains enough support, he could sabotage the peace process. Then we must ensure he does not gain that support, Vexar replied. We need to show the Empire that alliance with humanity is in our best interests, not just militarily, but economically and scientifically. Over the next week, secret communications passed between Earth and the subjugator. Vexar and Jake worked together to build a framework for peace. They shared information, discussed possibilities, and slowly built trust. Meanwhile, General Kraxus and his supporters watched and planned. They saw the growing friendship between humans and some Krell as a betrayal. They believed the Empire's strength came from conquest, not cooperation, and they were preparing to do something about it. On a colony world called Horizon 7, human settlers worked to establish humanity's first permanent presence outside their solar system. They built habitats, set up mining operations, and started farms in specially designed biodomes. The colony administrator, a woman named Claire Martinez, watched the sunset on this alien world and felt pride. Humans had come so far in such a short time. They had faced invasion and won. Now they were building something new. But in the darkness beyond the settlement, a Krell ship approached. It moved silently, its weapons concealed, its intentions hidden. General Kraxus had decided to force the issue. If the High Command would not act, he would. He would destroy this human colony and blame it on an accident. The resulting anger would make peace impossible. War would come, and the Empire would win as it always had, or so he thought. What Kraxus did not know was that Admiral Vexar had suspected such a move. And he had warned Jake Morrison. Human ships were already moving into position, ready to defend Horizon 7. The signing ceremony was held on Verdantis, a lush garden world that served as the Galactic Empire's diplomatic hub. The planet was beautiful, with purple skies and forests that glowed softly in the twilight. It was neutral ground, a place where conflicts could be resolved with words instead of weapons. Captain Jake Morrison led the human delegation down the transport ship's ramp. With him came diplomats, scientists, and military officers. Kate Sullivan walked at his side, her uniform crisp and formal. Behind them, Tyler Scott and Helen Martinez represented humanity's scientific and military achievements. The Krell High Command waited at the base of a massive building carved from living crystal. High Commander Draxus stood at the front, his scales a formal gold color. Around him, dozens of other species watched. Representatives from across the Empire had come to witness this historic moment. Captain Morrison, Draxus said as Jake approached. Welcome to Verdantis. High Commander, Jake replied with a respectful nod. Thank you for this opportunity. They walked together into the crystal building. The interior was vast, with light filtering through the walls in rainbow patterns. A circular table waited in the center, large enough to seat representatives from 50 species. Today, only 2 mattered. Admiral Vexar stood near the table. His scales showed calm blue, but Jake could see the tension in his posture. This was a risk for Vexar too. He had advocated for peace, argued against the war faction. If this failed, his career would be over. It has been a strange journey to this moment, Vexar said quietly as Jake passed. Strange but necessary, Jake replied. The ceremony began with formal speeches. Draxus spoke about the Empire's strength and its willingness to embrace worthy allies. Jake responded with words about cooperation and mutual respect. It was all very diplomatic, very careful, but everyone in the room knew the truth. This was not about friendship or idealism. This was about survival. The Krell could not afford a prolonged war with humanity. Humans could not stand alone against an empire spanning 1,000 worlds. They needed each other. The treaty was displayed on holographic screens for all to see. It guaranteed human sovereignty over their existing territories. It granted Earth full voting rights in the Imperial Council. It promised mutual defense and open trade. And it established technology exchange programs. But before the signing could proceed, alarms suddenly blared throughout the building. Security breach, a Krell officer announced. We have reports of an attack on the human colony at Horizon 7. Jake's face went hard. Status? Unknown. Communication was cut off mid-transmission, but we detected weapons fire and explosions. The room erupted in confusion. Humans reached for their communication devices. Krell officials shouted orders. The carefully planned ceremony fell apart in seconds. Then Admiral Vexar's communicator chimed. He listened for a moment, his scales shifting to surprised orange. Captain Morrison, you need to hear this. A holographic image appeared above the table. It showed space near Horizon 7. A Krell military ship hung motionless, its weapons disabled, its engines dark. Around it, 3 human vessels maintained defensive positions. This is Commander Tyler Scott aboard the Pathfinder. Tyler's voice came through clearly. We have captured a Krell attack force attempting to destroy Horizon 7. The colony is secure. All attackers are in custody. Jake felt relief wash through him, but he kept his face neutral. Can you identify the attackers? Yes, Captain. The lead ship belongs to General Craxus. He is aboard and has been detained. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. General Craxus was a war hero, a decorated officer with centuries of service. That he would attempt sabotage was almost unthinkable. High Commander Draxus's scales flashed through angry reds and blacks. This is an outrage. How did you know about the attack? Admiral Vexar warned us, Jake said simply. 2 days ago he sent intelligence suggesting that extremist elements might try to sabotage the peace process. We prepared accordingly. All eyes turned to Vexar. The Admiral stood straight, his scales now a defiant purple. I did what was necessary to preserve the Empire. Craxus and his followers represent a dangerous ideology. They believe strength can only come through conquest. They are wrong. You betrayed your own military, one counselor accused. I protected the Empire from itself, Vexar corrected. General Craxus was willing to start a war that would cost us thousands of ships and countless lives. That is not strength. That is madness. Counselor Zynar stood, his ancient scales gleaming in the crystal light. Admiral Vexar acted with wisdom and courage. He put the Empire's needs above military pride. That is the highest form of loyalty. The debate raged for an hour. Some council members demanded Vexar's arrest. Others praised his actions. Finally, Draxus raised his hand for silence. Bring General Craxus here, he ordered. Let us hear his defense. The general was transported from Horizon 7 under heavy guard. When he entered the chamber, his scales showed no remorse, only angry red determination. You have betrayed everything the Empire stands for, Craxus accused, looking at Draxus. These humans are a threat. They will surpass us, destroy us. I acted to preserve our way of life. By murdering innocent colonists? Jake asked coldly. By starting a war through deception? By doing what you were too weak to do, Craxus shot back. The Empire was built on conquest. That is our strength. Alliance with inferiors will only weaken us. Inferiors? Kate stepped forward. We destroyed your flagship with technology you did not understand. We developed jump drives while you still used slow wormholes. We solved problems you gave up on thousands of years ago. And you call us inferior? Craxus had no answer to that. Because the truth was clear to everyone in the room. Humanity had matched the Krell Empire not through superior numbers or resources, but through innovation and different thinking. High Commander Draxus made his decision. General Craxus, you are hereby stripped of all rank and authority. You will be exiled to a penal colony for attempting to sabotage Imperial policy. The evidence against you is clear. As guards led Craxus away, Draxus turned to the assembly. Let this serve as a message. The Krell Empire is changing. We have spent 1,000 years conquering. Perhaps it is time we learned to cooperate instead. The treaty was signed an hour later. Jake Morrison placed his signature next to High Commander Draxus's mark. Kate Sullivan, Tyler Scott, and Helen Martinez signed as witnesses. On the Krell side, Admiral Vexar and Counselor Zynar added their marks. Humanity officially joined the Galactic Empire. Not as subjects, but as equals. The celebration that followed was cautious but genuine. Human and Krell officers mingled, sharing drinks and stories. Scientists exchanged ideas. Diplomats discussed future collaborations. Jake found himself standing with Admiral Vexar on a balcony overlooking Verdantis's glowing forests. You took a great risk warning us about Craxus, Jake said. No greater than the risk you took defending yourselves from our fleet, Vexar replied. We both gambled on peace. Today we won. Some of your people still see us as a threat. Some of your people still fear us, Vexar countered. Trust takes time, but we have made a beginning. 2 years after the signing, the transformation was visible everywhere. Human technology had spread throughout the Empire, adapted and improved by alien engineers. Krell medical advances had extended human lifespans and cured diseases. Joint colonies thrived on dozens of worlds. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan found herself assigned to Unity Station, a massive orbital facility built together by humans and Krell. She worked alongside alien scientists, developing new propulsion systems that combined the best of both civilizations. Her partner was a Krell engineer named Vortix, who had initially been skeptical of human methods. Your approach is still chaotic, Vortix complained one day, watching Kate rewire a power coupling in an unconventional way. But it works, Kate replied with a grin. That is the difference between us. You want perfection. We want results. Vortix's scales shifted to amused green. I have learned more in 6 months with you than in my previous 20 years as an engineer. Perhaps chaos has its value. Commander Tyler Scott led the expansion effort, establishing colonies across dozens of systems. Each settlement became a blend of human ingenuity and alien technology. Farms used Krell biotechnology to grow food in alien soil. Factories combined human assembly methods with alien energy systems. Schools taught children from a dozen species to work together. On New Terra, one of humanity's largest colonies, human children played with young Krell, learning each other's languages and customs. The differences that had once meant war now meant diversity and strength. But not everything was peaceful. The Vaxan Confederation, sensing that the Krell Empire had changed, tested its borders with small raids. The Zephyr Alliance made demands for territory. Other powers watched, waiting to see if the alliance between humans and Krell would hold. It did. When Vaxan raiders attacked a joint colony, both human and Krell ships responded. The raiders found themselves facing railguns and plasma beams, traditional Krell tactics combined with human unpredictability. They retreated quickly and did not return. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to admiral, stood in the command center of Unity Station and watched reports from across human space. 20 colonies, 100 ships, trade agreements with 30 species, scientific breakthroughs happening every